This story is based on the true incident of 32-year-old Samir. That night he was returning home from his office. It was his wedding anniversary, but he got delayed at work. His wife, Reshma, was waiting for him at home. However, his bike wouldn't start. He thought since the bus would arrive soon, why not take it instead? As he reached the bus stand, the clouds began to thunder and suddenly, heavy rain started pouring. Samir placed his suitcase over his head and began waiting for the bus. His clothes were completely drenched. Suddenly he noticed that the raindrops stopped falling on him. He turned to his left and saw a man holding an umbrella, sharing its cover with him. Samir felt grateful and smiled at the man. The man was wearing black glasses, a hat and gloves, making him look a bit strange. Then the man spoke. "The world is so strange. Some places have rain, some suffer drought, some have life, while others have death." Samir had no response to this, so he just smiled and nodded. Just then Samir's phone rang. As he took it out, the phone slipped from his hand and fell to the ground. When he bent down to pick it up, what he saw made his blood run cold. The man had no legs. Even inside his shoes there were no feet, as if he was floating in the air. Samir's face turned pale. He quickly picked up his phone and started thinking about the man's legs. He decided to move away, but when he looked around, he realized the entire bus stand was now empty. There was no one else in sight except for Samir and that man. Samir began panicking. The rain intensified. The storm raged on. The two of them stood alone at the bus stand. The rain became so heavy that Samir could barely see anything anymore. No bus was in sight. He texted his wife, Reshma, explaining his situation and asking her to come quickly. Just then the man spoke again. "Calling Sri Krishna here won't be right." Hearing this, Samir felt his stomach drop. He immediately ran out from under the umbrella, crossing the road without looking back. He kept running and running, only stopping when he could no longer see the man. Exhausted, he sat on a bench by the roadside, trying to catch his breath. But suddenly the rain above him stopped again. With fear, he turned to his side. And there he was. The same man, sitting next to him, holding his umbrella. Samir screamed and jumped up from the bench, running toward the road again. The rain turned into thick fog. Lightning flashed across the sky, drowning out Samir's cries. He kept looking back, but when he looked ahead, he froze. Lightning struck, illuminating the road. And there, right in the middle of the street, stood that man again. This time, half of his body was floating in the air. He smiled and slowly removed his sunglasses. His eyes were completely black, and blood was dripping from them. Just then, Samir heard the honk of a bus behind him. When he turned around, he saw a bus approaching, surrounded by a crowd rushing towards it. Samir had no other option but to run towards the bus. As the bus arrived, people pushed and shoved their way inside. In the chaos, Samir fell to the ground. People trampled over him, and he couldn't get up. The bus driver moved the bus forward, trying to clear the crowd. But in doing so, Samir's legs got crushed under the bus. He screamed in pain before blacking out. Meanwhile, Reshma arrived in an auto, following the location Samir sent. When she reached, she saw Samir lying in the middle of the road, covered in blood. There was no one else around. Reshma rushed him to the hospital. Samir survived, but he had lost both his legs forever. When he told people what had happened, no one believed him. But when Reshma researched the bus stand, she was shocked. About 10 years ago, a man had died in a similar accident at the same bus stand. Since then, every year during the monsoon, someone suffers a similar fate. And every survivor had spoken about a strange man with black eyes. Reshma realized that Samir had become a victim of that entity. A few years later, Samir passed away due to depression. Now, every monsoon, Reshma visits that same bus stand, hoping to find the black-eyed man. She wonders if that man was once a victim himself, and if now, he is taking revenge on others. She wants to ask him why he is doing this, but she has never seen him again, and maybe she never will. What do you think? Who was that man? And why did he choose Samir?